Welcome to the Stories That Sparkle podcast. I'm Hella Rader, and in today's episode, I sit down with my bestie, Addie, and have a conversation with her about sleeping in separate bedrooms, as in partners, couples, whoever's, romantically connected peoples who cohabitate and sleep in separate bedrooms, maybe even when they travel. Anyway, Addie was willing to sit down and talk to me about it. We've talked about it many different times. She and her partner do this quite happily and very successfully, and she has some pretty good points, even though I'm still not so sure about all of that. And there's also a little bit of a thing that happens halfway through because I'm so painfully uncomfortable for this whole conversation. So I just changed the subject radically. You'll hear that part loud and clear when it happens. And so I asked Addie to come back actually and re-record the second half of this conversation with me. And she was kind and gracious enough to say yes to that. And I really want to honor her willingness to both have this conversation, to go there, to be honest, to be vulnerable, and to just be real with me about all of this and let me work it out with her. So anyway, I'm really grateful for all of this, for all of you. Please stick around. I'm currently on the road. I'm in Nashville right now. I'm heading midweek to Memphis, maybe Little Rock, and definitely Dallas. So yeah, lots going on over here. Anyway, I invite you to get comfortable, sit back, and listen in. I'm Hella Rader. With a good sense of humor, an open heart, and an open mind, I love to explore the very human complexities in others and in myself. That's why I created a space for women you have never heard of and could easily pass on the street to share in their own voices the intricacies of starting over in life, building community, inhabiting their bodies, and more. Welcome to our Disco Ball, the stories that sparkle. All right, Addie, well, welcome to the Sunroom.
Thank you.
It's good to have you here.
I am a longtime listener, first-time caller. I love this.
We've known each other, like 4 or 5 years now?
At least. I think it's longer than that.
Yeah, something like that. I think it was a post-COVID, like when we really started hanging out.
Yes.
Yeah, because I came out of my hibernated state.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
I'm like, oh, there's a whole world out here.
Turns out.
Perhaps I shall join it.
Yep, very much so.
All right, so thank you, by the way, for being willing to chit-chat with me about this.
Of course.
So today's topic, according to the New York Times terminology, is sleep divorce, which is when you and your partner sleep in separate bedrooms.
Yes.
In other words, don't share one bed every night. So you and I have talked about this on numerous occasions, and I've always been fascinated by this whole phenomenon because I'm not sure yet how I feel about it. I might be warming to it, but I'm not sure. So thought we would have a little chit chat about this.
Sure.
So I guess my first question is, what do you think about the term sleep divorce?
I think it's way too harsh.
Right.
I think that also makes it seem critical and, well, obviously you and I have backstory on divorce, so just the word in general.
Oh yeah. It's
fraught.
A trigger. Yes, it's a trigger word. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But I think that I don't even picture it like that at all. Like it's not a negative choice.
Right.
In my situation at all.
So what was the process or the decision-making journey, if you will? What was the conversation? Like who started, how did all of this happen that you sleep in separate rooms? There we go. I said it all. I said it out loud, finally.
So my partner, Aaron, and I moved into our house in 2016. We also live with his 15-year-old daughter. So it was a 3-bedroom house, and our always plan was 3 beds in the 3 bedrooms. We'd both lived separately in separate apartments, so we each all had a bed. And so it was just, let's just convey this into our new shared space. And I don't even think there was ever a consideration that we would share our rooms. I think we started out with, how do you merge lives? How do you merge lives with a child when you had not done that before, and sort of how do you navigate that? And I think we really came about it where we wanted to each have our own separate space where that we felt comfortable, that was ours, that we could decorate as we wanted. The level of messiness could be what we wanted. You could close the door. You know, we don't really go into each other's rooms necessarily, like uninvited or that sort of thing either. So that's just our separate spaces to be and do what we want. Caveat too, we both work from home. So we're already spending a lot of time in our house together also, but in separate spaces. And so I think it's a little bit, by the end of the day, we've talked a lot on our respective Zooms and, you know, we get to the end of the day and we really like going into our separate spaces and not having to converse. And I read a lot. He watches shows and TV, and we're doing that in our own separate spaces.
I hadn't even thought about that piece of it. Like, you're already together a lot. Because, like, yeah, when you leave the house to go to work, or at least one person leaves the house to go to work, right? You're coming home and, like, you haven't seen each other all day. So it's also different vibes.
Right.
In that respect.
Yeah.
Interesting.
What more do we have to say to each other after 9?
Right.
Probably not. I mean, we do spend some time in our sort of wind down. One of us will come into the other's room and lay down and have chats, and that's we get kind of giggly and goofy. You know, you're sort of in that exhaustion part of the day. Other nights we just come in, say goodnight to each, like whoever's in bed first, the other person comes to them to say goodnight, and that's it. See you in the morning.
I also heard in there you were living on your own in your own place. He was living on his own in his own place with his daughter part-time, right? Mm-hmm. Right. So now you're merging households. So it just was like we're going to maintain this level of some sort of separation.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think I don't even like I said, I don't even remember it being a conversation. Like, this was the way that it was going to go. Also, too, when we first moved in together, Aaron was working a lot of late nights and waking up early. So he was simultaneously somehow a night owl and an early bird. And I need my 8 to 9, preferably 9. I'm not great if I don't have it kind of thing, 9 hours a night sort of thing. So a piece of that was also like, this is our way to have our separate sleep in the ways that we want to have it and not annoy the other person
right
unnecessarily.
Right. Does it also, like, temperature, like, does temperature control also factor in any way?
Yeah. So I am very anti-fans. Most people who know me, I hate to have air blowing on me in any capacity. So much so that when we moved in, my room had a ceiling fan and I had it removed and moved into the kitchen. Like, this has got to go. I can't do this. He has a fan in his room. Isabella has a fan in her room, and they both use them actively. The dog prefers to be in the room with the fan as well. So he wishes I had a fan. I definitely don't. So that's also a piece of it. The irony is my room is the coldest of all 3 of them. So, yeah. So in the winter time, they are nice and warm, and I'm got my hoodie on and my pants tucked into my socks.
I love this. I got my whole insulation outfit happening.
Yep, I definitely have like a second blanket I pull in on those experiences as well. So, yeah,
that's amazing. I love this. I love this. So, did you do this also in your previous relationship / marriage?
No, that was a joint living situation. Queen bed.
Oh, very tight quarters.
Yeah. So that was a piece of it too. You know, it's just like, it was too much. It's too much for me. Mm-hmm. I just think that's, you know, caveat too, I'm also an only child. I travel a lot for work. So there is a good amount of my time anyways, not including in my house, where I'm sleeping in a bed by myself. So this is sort of takes my travel life and merges it into my home life, and, you know, same there.
Right. Well, I'm hearing, like, you just know who you are.
Yeah.
and what works for you and what doesn't.
Yes.
And, you know.
And I think so. Two things, like Aaron really liked that I didn't need to be policing his space in any sort of way, from a like tidy laundry thing or books on the bedside and all that sort of stuff. Like we were just free to be who you want to be in your room. And
Yeah, this is going to be a thing I'm going to have to look, because
Yeah.
my room is that. Like, my room is like, I have suitcases still from 2 weeks ago, unpacked,
Yep.
and just crap everywhere.
Yep.
And I don't think anyone else would appreciate that.
And both of our rooms are like that, fluctuating in different times and in different ways. So it's not, you know, one or the other. We both are equally, you know, all over the place. But that's something, a piece of it. Now we've gone so far as to even extend this, that when we travel, we get 2 queen beds in our hotel rooms as opposed to a king. So we are a couple at the front desk asking for 2 queens.
Oh my God, they're probably like, what? What is happening here?
Also, I will say my parents sleep this way. And they have for decades. So when that probably started in my middle school time frame, my dad snores and it wasn't working for my mom. And so they were sleeping in separate beds. No issues in their relationship, separate beds. They've since moved house. Same deal. It was
Right.
never. And so then when they do travel together, that's can become problematic because they're not used to being in the same space together.
Right. And they've been doing that a long time.
They've been doing that a long time. Mm-hmm. Yep.
Wow, it's that. Yeah, because my parents always slept in one room, and I remember. Now that I think about it, like my dad had a little TV, like olden days TV, right, next to the bed, with the knobs and everything.
Sure.
And then my mom on the other side, like me, would listen to but like I listen to podcasts now. When I fall asleep, she would listen to the radio. So she would have it under the pillow. As like a sound muffling device, right?
Like the pre-Bose earbuds.
Yeah, there was no earbud situation yet. So she would literally like sleep with her ear on the pillow and the radio under the pillow to like, and I'm like, wow, now that I think about it, like they could have also just had separate rooms.
Yeah. Also, like she's sleeping with a brick under her. I mean, you're talking about a 1970s radio. Like it's not going to be like this slick, thin thing.
I mean, you know, it was like, now that I think I'm like, wait a second, actually, that would have probably been really good for them to have separate rooms.
So, I mean, I think too, you know, there weren't other kids in my house. Like space was not an issue. We had the space.
Right.
Similar to my current situation. So it was not there's like they grew up. There's 4 to 5 kids in this house. The parents are going to stay in the same room because that's the option.
No, that's true. Because like there was 4 bedrooms and there was 3 kids. So yeah, right. I mean, there wasn't really an option. And then when my oldest brother moved out, I took over his room. Yeah. So I had 2 rooms.
Yes. Sure.
I had a bedroom and then a living
auxiliary room. Yes. I like that. I did too, actually.
I was the only child at some point become an only child. So I'm like, I have a living room and a bedroom.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Hilarious. Mm-hmm. Thinking back on that, I'm like, what the hell?
No, mine did too. I had a little love seat. It had a desk. Yeah. That was the computer room.
Yes. Oh my God. Yeah. I had a home office / living room upstairs next to my bedroom. Wow.
With my phone line, because I had a phone line.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I had that too. Mm-hmm. Yep.
See, we just were
call waiting and all the things. Star 69 to see who the hell called and hung up. Yeah. All the. Y'all don't even know what you're missing out on.
We were living parallel lives in 2 different states.
I know, that's pretty wild. So here's why I still am not sure how I feel about this, right? Now, this New York Times article asserts very confidently, with many therapists speaking about it, that it actually helps with intimacy. Yeah. And I'm not saying necessarily even sex, although that's obviously part of intimacy, but in general, intimacy. And I was like, how do you have intimacy or feel close to someone if you're not in one bed, like basically in a snuggle position? Although who the hell actually sleeps in a snuggle position? No. But anyway, like in my fantasy world, I'm like, don't we have to do that? So anyway, so I'm curious about that. Like
Yeah.
how that works for you or how that feels for you, I guess.
So I will say he's a light sleeper and so does easily, and when he wakes, he's startled. So that's a tricky sleeping situation. And I do roll around a lot. And so if you're rolling and then you're startling your partner and then they're startling you, like there's not a whole lot of, the other piece of that too is the thing about our separate rooms that we like is that we can digest separately.
Oh.
So that's not an experience that's happening next to each other, near to each other, under the covers with each other. So in that sense, I think we both feel strongly that that helps protect our intimacy.
Right. Like, does it feel like it creates some sort of mystery?
No, not so much, but just like we're not, I guess for lack of a better word, annoyed by each other, either by how we're sleeping, whether the light's on. He would sleep with the light on a bit more than I do too. So there's just like, we're not forcing that situation of being together for the sake of being together when we're just not sleep compatible like that. I mean, I don't know of a lot of couples that do spend, then the last 45 minutes or half an hour before they go to sleep talking or cuddling, or you're doing your wind down thing, whatever your wind down thing is. I think that's more natural. Yes, there could be some, oh, check this out, or did you hear this, or, something that's happened during the day or something you want to, connect on. But I bet more often than not, most people are doing their separate nighttime routines.
Right.
Just next to each other.
Right. Right. Now that I think back, like when I was married, like basically here's how that would go, which I also would not say this was remotely intimate or sexy. He would either be in bed already, or one of us was already in bed, and he would be on his iPad like reading stuff, and then I would be with my headphones on in the other side of the bed, not facing him, listening to a podcast.
Yeah, you were.
So basically, we're in separate rooms already. Just now, but now we're creating almost more distance. It feels like.
Sure.
And in retrospect, I'm like, oh, that actually created more distance because now we're like in the same environment and like not together in it anyway.
Right. Mm-hmm. Also, your activities were exactly mirroring your parents, which is...
Yes. I mean, that is also quite bizarro world and like creeps me out a little bit.
And it's from an intimacy perspective as well. It's you're tired, later night. Like that's not a time where I feel that anyways.
Right.
That's full stop. Like at the end of my day, that's not how I'm feeling. So that's not when I'm triggered by that anyways.
Right. Yeah. Cause in the article, they also talk about, it creates the sense of like, you're almost inviting.
Yes.
You're inviting that person into your place or whatever, your space to have that intimacy. Correct. Or to like, at whatever time of day or night or whatever, versus like, oh, it has to happen now. And if it doesn't happen now, what's wrong here?
Right.
That's always the vibes I felt.
Yeah. It's an intentional choice and conversation and decision that we have with each other.
Right.
Not a obligation or a nightly rejection type situation. Doesn't exist for us that way.
So do you find in that regard it helps do you feel that it's also helps and contributes positively overall to the dynamics of the relationship?
Yes. I think it preserves, we feel strongly too that being individuals is important for us to be a couple. And I think the separate rooms and the separate spaces is a physical manifestation of that. That allows us to be who we are, but also be together. And so yeah, I think that's
So
how
I'm
we think
hearing
about
in
it.
there like a level of freedom
Yeah.
within, like, yeah, okay. So because this is another like what
Yeah,
mind
sure.
Hello's mind blown situation. I'm only just now in my later years coming around to this idea. I think
Yeah.
for a long time, I thought if you're in a good relationship, it means you're like attached at the hip, and I'm like rethinking that.
Yeah, but we are different people. You know, we restore ourselves differently. We are different from an outward, people facing, how we approach that. So there's a lot of, we're not the same person. So the idea that we would merge like that on a daily basis for sleep it's just different. Like I said, we have separate workspaces in the house, but just like any workplace, like our kitchen is kind of our, water cooler. So during the day,
Right. Yes.
We'll come together, like he'll come up to make lunch or whatever, and we're chatting, or we'll take a break and I'll go visit him, or he'll come up and visit me. And so, we're still doing that, having that interaction throughout the day. So we're really experiencing each other all day long, except for when we go to bed.
Right. Okay, now I have follow-up questions about working from home.
Yes.
Because working from home is a new phenomenon for me. But have you been working from home a long time? Or was it just COVID? Okay, so that was the moment where I completely crashed this entire conversation and changed the subject radically away from sleeping in separate bedrooms to really working from home. Yes, I did that because I was deeply, deeply, deeply uncomfortable on the inside with this whole conversation, because it brought up all kinds of issues for me around intimacy, intentional intimacy, just intimacy, period, asking for what you want, asking for what you need, just communicating. I mean, like the whole thing made me so uncomfortable. So Addie was willing to come back and re-record the second half of this conversation. And we get into some of those things, including my discomfort. I wouldn't say that I have quite overcome my discomfort and that I'm out of the woods yet, but I am working on this. This is a growth edge for me. So this conversation actually has been part of me growing into a new place with this whole topic about intimacy, not just sleeping in separate bedrooms. So enjoy. All right, Addie. Welcome back to the sunroom.
Thank you.
I wanted to revisit that whole discussion because we were just getting to the point about, you're two separate people. You do spend a lot of time together because you work at home. That's when I was like, oh, work from home. And yet honoring each other's basically individuality.
Yes.
And space, the space in between, as Rilke likes to say.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, God, that's just what makes me very uncomfortable. This whole thing makes me so uncomfortable because I figured out in the meantime why it makes me so uncomfortable. It means I have to ask for what I want and be clear. And that scares the crap out of me.
Well, truth be told, I'm not super good at that either.
Okay. Well, that makes me feel a little better.
Yeah, this is not a expert level situation over here.
Okay.
But I think I'm more concerned about that with trivial matters, I think, sometimes than I am about serious ones.
Really? See, because for me, it's whether it's low stakes, high stakes, either way, I feel like it's going to kill me.
Yes.
Which is interesting to me.
Well, and it's interesting too, because my partner, Aaron, recognizes this in me a lot. And I know it's something that I need to work on and want to work on. But sometimes the passive aggressive way that I don't realize that I'm doing it, I think I'm saying something to be friendly and accommodating. And it turns out to sound like I'm guiding without actually saying it.
Oh, I see.
So, for example, last night we were at a function and we had almost finished our wine, but we were moving into a different section of the area. And I was like, well, we should probably get a refill before we, go back in the other direction, which I which just in my mind, just a statement.
Right.
But he was reading as, you should probably go get us a refill.
Ah, right.
Because that is my tendency, and I have done that before.
Oh, right. So he's like, I have to like read between the lines of what she's saying.
Yes. And so that's bothersome to him because he would rather just know.
Right. Just tell me what you want.
Correct. And
Yeah.
I'm trying to soften the blow of asking for such things sometimes.
Yeah, it's what I'm saying. It's like my entire, I can't even talk about it, right? Like even now, even though I've now identified like a couple of things that were coming up. One was that like, oh my gosh, you mean I have to ask for like things like, I mean, like I was telling you before we hit record, just asking for what I want, even when I'm asked a direct question about it. So my friend the other night, this is a friend of mine, super good friend of mine, in fact, a best friend of mine who loves me. And I know this about her. There's like no confusion here. Anyway, she's like, I was going over for dinner and she said, do you want turkey burger or beef burger? And I started like, and my immediate response is, whatever works for you. Or something. Oh, I have no preference. I'm like, but I do have a preference. And she's asking me, what is your preference? And even then I couldn't answer it straight. My whole thing is if I do that, then it'll make problems or conflict and now we'll have disunity. When in fact, being honest and direct and clear creates more unity because people know where I stand on X, Y, or Z or what it is I want.
And that's something that Aaron taught me a lot about, which is give people the information to allow them to react to it.
Right.
If you are not showing them, they are reacting to not you. They are reacting to this version of you that you are projecting that's not truly you. So then when they miss the mark and we've written them off for however,
Right.
you and I would process that, that's not fair to them. And it's also not fair to you because you didn't actually give them the information. And this is proven to be very insightful for me because when I am more vulnerable, when I do say the thing like, I need help or I'm really upset about this right now, then I get a better response, better for me response, because I'm saying what I'm actually feeling.
Right.
So I think that's another piece, like even from an intimacy perspective is, sometimes if you're not in the right headspace or you're not in the right place to be intimate with someone, you might excuse it away or you might sort of dance around it and not really say, you know what, I am way too in my head right now.
Right.
Or physically, this is just not what I'm feeling right now.
Right.
And it's not to say that that's not anything that's happening against my will or, any of those types of things, but it's just like I could be in a better place than I am right now.
Right.
And so being more honest about that is not gives your partner the information.
Right. Yeah, no, I was like, but that's the thing. I'm like, oh, being that kind of vulnerable, like it might kill me. And then I realized, okay, some of that is a leftover from my previous relationship.
Sure.
I call it relationship jet lag. It took me back to when I would be up alone in bed, waiting for my husband to come upstairs and hearing him downstairs on the phone with someone else, other woman, basically. There, I said it. I feel better.
Yes.
Right. So at different times, it was genuinely not safe, or it certainly felt clearly unsafe. I didn't feel safe. Then by the time I wanted to reach out, certainly in this intimacy department, physically speaking, specifically, he had moved on.
Yeah.
Already. And so I think like it just, when we were having that conversation, I'm like, oh my God, like it just took me back to like laying in bed, feeling much lonelier than if we just didn't have the one bed. And
Right.
I was like, but it's like being with someone and feeling alone. I'd rather be alone, like alone, than be with someone and feel alone. It was miserable for me. So like, what's the problem, Helen? Why not try this other thing?
Yeah.
What if there's another way to have intimacy and it doesn't look like this or look like that? It could be whatever it works for you and the other person. And that's what was freaking me out, I think.
Yeah. And I like the space in between. I was actually having this conversation last night because I like to miss him. I'm excited to see him in the morning. You know, that's not, it's not the repetitiveness of that. It's the anticipation of that and the looking forward to that. And sometimes I feel like if people feel too on top of each other, whether it's physically, like, you know, the time together is too much or their space together is too close, then they don't get to have that anticipation. They don't get to have that longing and interest when everywhere they turn, that person is right there.
Right.
Literally.
Right. Well, that's the thing. I mean, you know, I've been practicing leaving space in all kinds of other places. I didn't realize these two things were, by the way, connected at all until we were having this conversation. I'm like, oh my God, like this hurts me, because I'm like, oh shoot, like this is a different stakes now though.
Yes.
So like, for example, when my job had ended and I was having all these networking calls and, you know, or reaching out to people for this or that, like I got really good at, like, if I don't get a response after the second follow-up, I leave it and move on. It means not now or ever, but just definitely not now. So just keep it moving. And if I leave the space, people then come in reverse because there's space for them to traverse across, basically. And it's their idea and they're able to come toward, which is really what I'm actually hoping for ultimately. In any of these circumstances, is a coming toward mutually. But if I'm always running in between and over across the space, that person can't do that.
Yeah.
Whether it's professionally, like in a job situation or a, you know, networking of opportunities situation, friendships even, and certainly romantic partners. Like it's actually applies all over across the board. And that's what was hurting my brain.
Yeah.
I think.
Well, it's antithetical to, like, you got to be hustling and you've got to be reaching out and you've got to be, don't let anybody forget you and all of that sort of thing. And it's like, that's not, everybody's overwhelmed.
Right.
Everybody's they've got a lot on their plate. And I think about that in relationships too. You know, we only know our own reality. We only know our own childhood. We only know our own educational background. We only know, that is the only thing that we can, and even our memories are flawed on those, you know, areas as well. But we only know that piece. And sometimes Aaron and I say, like, it's just crazy that people even get together in relationships in the first place, because we've all had so many different experiences and then we're trying to come together, and it's a lot. It's a lot for two people to be together intentionally for a long period of time.
Yeah.
Because you can be together passively.
Yeah.
For a long time.
20 years long.
Yep. Yep. and friendships can be that way too, you know?
Yeah.
But I think it's work. It's work.
Right.
So one of those work things is every Wednesday, ideally Wednesday or Thursday, we go out on a date.
Aw.
And that, especially both working from home, we just needed a reason to get out and not have to be the one making the dinner or cleaning up the dishes, and just like something where we could just go and talk about whatever we wanted to talk about. And most of the time, those conversations end up being not about our days or what happened, which is what our home conversations tend to be.
Oh, so I like this. You segment that out. Like you're really intentional. It sounds to me like A, making the time, B, going out of the house, and C, not talking about house stuff.
Well, no, I think the C happens because of A and B.
Oh, got it.
We actually just end up talking about other different things because we're not in the headspace of those other
Got
areas.
it. Okay.
Yeah. So that to me, like, that's when we sometimes go down the rabbit hole of planning trips, or, you know, talk about books or something, you know, something way off topic. And we have a really great time doing it. And leaving the house and being intentional about that, carving out that time, making sure if it's not a Wednesday, then it's a Thursday or it's a Saturday afternoon, or it can take different shapes, but that exists in our life.
Right. Oh, I like that. Okay. I took a note.
I think that giving people the space to be themselves and nurture themselves in whatever way that is allows them to bring a better self to the relationship.
Right.
And that's not to say that you don't have intertwined interests and goals and all of those types of things, but it's the whole, put your mask on before helping others, fill your cup before helping others. Mm-hmm. I think that sleep is a big part of that, and having your own restorative space where you don't need to be polite and do all of the other things that the rest of the world can feel like it's forcing on us.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I'm telling you, like, ever since we had this conversation, I realized, and I've been now much more aware of all the places where I do this thing of being afraid to just say what I want, like very simply and plainly to like my friends even. Right. I'm like, wow, so that was the other thing that was, I mean, I've observed this before, that these conversations I have with other women and their stories and their experiences with things always bring something up in me every time, or I think of something in a different way. So I'm good with that. But this one really threw me up for a big loop.
And your masking was really good because I didn't realize it was happening.
Oh, I know.
I was just going where you were going.
And partly like on the inside, I don't know that I was fully cognizant either. I just remember this feeling bubbling up and I was like, no, I cannot talk about this.
Yeah.
And even now it's better, but I can hear myself slightly struggling with it, but I'm doing it anyway. Cause I'm like, I've learned to lean into the discomfort of these kinds of things because that's how I'll get through them. I feel like I have been making progress, and I feel like these separate spaces, whether metaphorically or physically or literally, whatever, like create like an opportunity to express a desire to be together versus assuming it is so, and then having all these resentments build up because I'm not being honest. That person doesn't know what I really want. I'm pissed off now and I'm holding it against you. Correct. And you don't even know what the hell's going on.
And they know none of it.
Yes.
Or can sense some of it.
Right.
But then you're giving them no actual information.
Right.
Yeah. I think that, I like I said, Aaron has taught me a lot about this and using my words and not running away. And my first instinct whenever we have a disagreement or I get emotional about something is flee. I gotta get out. I gotta take a walk. I gotta go somewhere else. I can't. And then I use that time to just like over rationalize it and get it down into its nice little package. And he'll force me to, okay, tell me more about that. Keep going with that. Why does that bother you?
Oh, wow.
And it's like, it's the complete opposite of my instinct.
Right.
But I end up better on the other side.
Right.
I get the emotion out, which is not my deal. But I'm actually resolving my feelings around it as opposed to being like, yep, okay, I'm just going to pack that in somewhere else and not actually process that.
Right. I also hear a sense of safety. Like you can't, like he's obviously encouraging that, and it's safe when you do go there for you, it's safe for you to have gone there. Like you're not, like it's still a risk internally, and yet you're going to be safe in that. And I think that's always been part of my difficulty has been, even if when I did risk it, it wasn't safe physically, emotionally, sure. And it didn't go well. So then I just gave up again. Like I would try and then give up and try and instead of just leaving the situation altogether, right. And going, this doesn't work for me, period, across the board, I'm out. I just made it work somehow. I mean, it wasn't working, but I just adapted around it.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, right. I don't want to do that anymore or again. And yet I'm realizing, oh, it's harder for me than I thought. My fear is, will it be safe? to risk doing that, or will this person leave? And so my fix it for that is to just cling. And I'm like, yeah, that doesn't work either. People don't react very well to that.
Well, and
necessarily respond too well to being like clung on to.
Well, and I think that people can mask emotional disconnection with physical connection. Like, oh, if I'm just physically with you and I'm close to you and I'm affectionate with you, I can mask the fact that we're not actually emotionally connecting in a way that I'd want to with a partner. And so we think we're acting the part of being intimate and emotional with somebody, but there's a whole half of us that's not engaged in that at all. And I wonder if sometimes then, to your point, when you're trying to, you don't want to do this side, so you lean in on the other side, or vice versa. Like if you don't want to be physical with someone, so you lean higher on the emotional side of things, there's a blind spot there for sure.
Oh yeah. Well, because the other thing is, I don't think I realized that how important physical touch of any kind, like even like just to hold my hand or brush my arm, stroke my arm. I don't know. It doesn't have to be a big thing. Hug. Like it's actually way more important to me than I ever thought. Because again, didn't feel safe. So I just shut it off.
Right.
From early on, like early age on, not just, in adulthood. So I just turned that just flipped that switch to off and just assumed I wasn't that person. The progress is I've gotten through enough of those issues that I'm now arriving at the kernel underneath, which is just ask for what you want.
Well, and that was also where an action wasn't equating the emotion that you feel like they should have been together. Like a hug means someone cares for me. That, you had issues and complications around that. So therefore, the act was opposite and didn't actually recognize what it should have to you. And so I think that's big stuff. That's not easy stuff. That's not one day I'm going to decide I'm good with all of it. And again, it's really hard for another person to navigate that with someone else without being honest about it.
Right.
How would someone know that for a long time hugs were hard, but now I'm pro hug?
Right. I'm team hug.
Until you tell them. But people would love to know that.
Right.
Or know that hugs are not your thing. And most people would respect that and feel like, good, now I'm doing something for her that she wants to be doing.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's why like the, sleeping in one bed always signified intimacy exists here and closeness is a thing, or it's possible because we're in under the same sheets of some sort or whatever.
Right. And are fighting for.
Yeah.
Temperature control.
Yeah.
And all
God.
Of that thing.
Oh, yeah. Forget it.
I as I was mentioning before, we all do our own wind downs. We're not talking right until we fall asleep. We're not snuggling right until we fall asleep. We have our space. We need our space as humans at the end of the day to wind down. And so necessarily doing that next to someone, that can be an intimate thing. That can be showing your partner that, I trust you to, even when I'm really burnt and vulnerable and just want to be by myself, I'm choosing to be with you, and that makes me feel safe. That could work for folks. Others, that might be the last thing that they want to be at that point in time in their day. So I think that it works for people should not be scared of trying it, giving it a chance. And if you're privileged enough to have the space in your home and in the space in your relationship to have that conversation, I don't see it as a negative, like I said. And I think it is worth trying, and it could work for both of you. It's a possibility you didn't realize could work for you.
But could I do that if I was like full on living with someone 24, as a thing, like either whether married or not married, doesn't even matter. Like if we're cohabitating, OMG, I don't know. Because again, but like maybe try it out. I think I like this. Try it out. You never know.
I think you could always time box it. 30 days, give it a month. You also might be more attracted to that person during that month.
Right.
You might be less short with that person during that month because, you know, you're having that space. I also think that there are probably couples out there that are doing this in a way that they might not admit.
Right.
So that someone just, they fell asleep on the couch and they just stayed on the couch.
Yes, that happened a lot here too.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I think that, but something about saying, I would like to sleep in the guest room is somehow a bridge too far.
Right.
I would encourage people to give it a try.
But, you know, it goes back to like that middle part about like talking about it, asking for the thing. It's like, this is like my brain is like, it should just happen. We should be snuggling and then suddenly we're having sex. Like,
no, that's partially my nightmare. I'm a planning person by nature.
Interesting.
So the idea of, not that happenstance is not fun and does not happen and all of those types of things, but I would more rather be in the right headspace, because the headspace thing is a big piece of it for me. Like I need to not be in work mode, or I need to not be in task oriented mode. So I just can't flip that switch.
Right.
And so I actually do like to know when and where that's going to take place. Okay. So I can, and not to say that doesn't work all the time. Sometimes I can still be in my head in a way that I'd prefer not to be, but that helps me. That helps me a lot.
So how does that work? Like, does somebody say, hey, I want to have sex tonight?
Sometimes as straightforward as that, and sometimes a little bit more
flirty.
Yes, correct. And sometimes it's alluded to, and then we get to the end of the day, or, you know, a time that we had said that was going to happen, and we're like, no, like too tired, too full,
right?
whatever the hurdle is, and that comes from both of us as well. But no, we tend to pick dates, pick times, and like I said, it helps me because I can mentally be in the space and be open to that.
Does it feel kind of like a date?
Not really.
Okay.
No.
I'm just curious.
I don't think it's not that formal of an experience.
Got it. Right.
Yeah. It's, and also, you know, we were talking about sharing a bed. Like, nighttime is not a time that I feel intimate. So that to me is more morning, afternoon anyways. So that's typically when we're already up, we're already moving around. Like it's not starting from bed anyways.
I see. Right.
Yeah.
So it's an ongoing thing if it's very intentional, or at least the room for like a joint decision being made. Like, hey, we're like bopping around the house. It's the midday. Feeling a little frisky. Let's flirt around and go upstairs.
Exactly. Yes. And so there's still the spontaneity and all of that. There's still, you know, kissing in the kitchen, and that leads to other things but we do still make time for that because that's very important in our relationship to connect in that sort of way. So it's similar to the date night thing in a way where we keep it as an intentional time for us, but also we're open to the spontaneity of it, or the vacation, traveling, you know, that's a whole different experience as well. So,
right.
Yeah.
Right. All right.
And again, that's another thing to try too.
Right. Oh.
So you could time box that to say, like, let's give it a try. You could ultimately find out that you prefer the spontaneity way more than the knowing. Or the knowing could be part of the buildup of being together.
Right.
Like there's a little piece of that I don't think you know until you try.
Yes. Yes.
You know, we make intentions to like go to the gym or get coffee with somebody or grab lunch or dinner with somebody. Like, we make those times. Why not try making those times with your partner? I mean, I know some people might think that that's a pressure situation too. They're like, oh, now I've said it's 10 a.m. on Friday, you know, here's the time. And then you should still feel comfortable to say,
right.
Still not feeling it. But what about going to bed, separate beds, and you say, with a wink and a nod, I'll see you in the morning. What could that space bring for people?
Right.
Because also the spontaneity thing, like, again, it needs to be both of you feeling spontaneous at the same time. And, you know, what are the odds of that? And I know you can kind of get there together and all of those types of things, but spontaneity might not be your thing. Right.
Yeah, I just think this. Yeah, I think this whole, because, you know, the other thing the article talked about is how this was such a controversial topic,
right?
For this one couple that's like they're podcasters or something, a husband and wife, I think, therapist couple. Anyway, apparently this was the most controversial topic of all of their episodes ever, and I was like, oh, okay, and I'm like, right, I can feel that it's probably connected to this whole question of intimacy writ large. Just like, now I got to talk about it and be direct about it. What? You know, that's very uncomfortable. And then I also feel like, you know, when I was listening back and we were talking about my parents and their bed, and I was mirroring that, you know, with my ex-husband, like to the T. I mean, creepy, actually. I'm like, right, like there are built-in ideas I have or beliefs I have about X, Y, or Z, including intimacy and what that looks like or should look like, that, you know, I haven't always examined and be like, you know, what if there's another way? Like, what if there's another way to do all kinds of things about this? And like, you know, what if, you know, it doesn't, and it's going to look very different from one couple to the next. Like, what works for you and Aaron may not work for me and whoever, and vice versa, and so on and so forth. But like, am I willing to experiment around and play with it and see, like, well, maybe there's another way from what I think it should be.
Absolutely. I think that's a piece of re-examining, not just silently, not use suffering's the wrong word, but like silently experiencing things and not kind of questioning. And maybe there's a happy medium too. You know, if your partner really does want to stay in the same bed, but it doesn't work for you, maybe on the weekends you stay together and on the weekdays you're separate. It doesn't have to be a hard and fast, and especially between two people who might feel intimacy differently, there's room in there too. Now, it does require conversations.
Well, that's
the scary part.
Right, which is that, and I think that's what I realized and why I was so uncomfortable in that initial conversation. Like, it all boiled down to like, a direct conversation would need to be had, which would include questions asked and answered. And I'm like, oh, right. That's the part that would terrify me.
Right.
I've noticed since that conversation, I've been working on it like deliberately, or it's just popped up everywhere. So I'm like, okay, I guess this is what I'm working on. And I've been leading it to it. So it's getting slightly easier, but I can still see, like, it's my first impulse is to retract.
I'm curious, and, you know, maybe your listeners can tell us if they've thought about doing this before, if they've done it and it hasn't worked, or they wish they could and they don't feel like they can. What about this makes it seem scary, makes it seem not possible, or are they doing it and enjoying it?
Right.
Is that working for them?
Right.
I'm curious to hear what other people are thinking and whether they've considered it.
Yeah, because it's funny, like every time it's come up, like about this, just this episode, and the reaction I can experience from other people, just the idea of it. And I could feel like sometimes people are like, I'm like, this is really hitting some chords.
Like they didn't know it was an option, kind of. Yeah. Sometimes that hits
or
people
they're really uncomfortable. Either way, it's been a really fascinating. Just mentioning it briefly has brought up some interesting responses that I've observed in the other person. It's a real like button.
Yeah.
It really pushes on some sort of button for a lot of people.
I'm glad we talked about it.
Yeah. So y'all, leave your penny for your thoughts, or your thoughts as pennies, or whatever.
Oh, there you go with your idioms again.
Leave them in the comment section.
Yeah.
Or send in an email to hellorator@substack.com and let us know. Let Addie and I know.
Right. We're curious.
We're curious. Like, how do you think, whatever experienced this whole sleeping in separate rooms situation? Super appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.
Thank you again for listening to The Stories That Sparkle, a space I created for women to share in their own voices the intricacies of their stories. Another huge, big, giganto, enormo, just all the big, big, big things. Thank you to Addie for doing this not once, but twice with me, for sharing so honestly and vulnerably and being so real. Really, it's just so appreciated. And also, she's just an amazing friend. She's been there for me so many times, I can't even tell you. And also, she's just an incredible woman. she is really a class act. So anyway, as I said, I'm in Nashville. I'm driving across country all the way to Santa Fe, New Mexico, and all the way back to Southern route and then the Midwestern route back. So please share this podcast with two people, just two. I'm recording women's stories all along the way, and I really want some help to get the word out there about these women's stories and get these women's voices amplified and further and further and further out there. So please help me to do that by sending this podcast on, encouraging others to listen in. And if you have a story you want to share or a topic you'd like me to cover in an episode of this podcast, please drop me a line, hellorator@substack.com, because together we bring light into dark places.